an online conference. It was really good. It had Richard Coletta from ISTE among other speakers and talking about AI. It was an entire 2-day online conference about artificial intelligence. And I tell you, I really got some good insights that I think changes a little bit some of the advice and recommendations we've given schools. But we know that. We know that things are going to continue to change and evolve when it comes to artificial intelligence. And so if the short version, and I'd love to talk about this a little bit more, but I found this very, very insightful. And this, again, credit to ISTE ASCD organization, International Society of Technology of Education, which is combining with the ASCD in a new, bigger, better organization. But anyway, they have come out with a series of resources on artificial intelligence, including examples of classroom activities, really for elementary and high school, on artificial intelligence. And we'll give you the link to those resources that I think is absolutely fantastic. But here's the thing that I really found insightful was a recommendation that when we're looking at artificial intelligence, we need to update our acceptable use policies, and we need to update our classroom policies. And we've been saying that at NWOET for several months now. But the thing we really have to do is make sure our updated policies are worded in a way that it covers artificial intelligence and whatever the next new technology is. So we don't put in, here is our policy for Facebook. Here is our policy for FaceTime. Here's our policy. We don't list every different, communications. Here's our policy for Zoom. Here's our policy for Google Meet. We don't list all of the different technologies and programs that you might use to communicate with each other. You come up with a policy that, how do we use communications online? It's the same thing with artificial intelligence, that we don't create a policy that says, here's how I use spell checker, and a separate policy for here's how I use artificial intelligence in my writing classes, and yet another policy for here's how I use Grammarly when it has artificial intelligence, and here's how I use the app Grammarly, which, for those of you that don't know, it's an app that helps teachers and students with the writing process. It's kind of a spell checker on steroids, if you will, spell and grammar checker. And there's all these different versions of the program. And in fact, we don't know anymore. We don't know what programs are using artificial intelligence. So if we look at a district policy that, for example, bans artificial intelligence, that's not going to work. And if you look at the October issue of our NWOET newsletter, front page, front and center, are things that your artificial intelligence policy should include. Well, those still apply, but we have to look broader than artificial intelligence. We have to make policies that talk about, and I'm going to give you three things. We have to have policies that talk about how are we going to use the technology for instruction. And, this is going to involve students, and it's maybe going to be a little bit more restrictive than some of the other ways that we might be using a technology, because we have to always be concerned with student privacy issues, and we have to make sure that we're protecting, students' private information, among ourselves and our learning community, as well as, beyond our learning community. So we have to look at how that policy is going to be used for instruction, how that technology is going to be used for instruction. The second thing, we have to look at how that technology is going to be used for administration, for my classroom duties and for my district duties. And so a particular technology might be used in one way with students, but there might be a little bit broader use, a little bit more flexibility in using it for our staff. And I'll give you a specific example. Many districts, at least at this point in time, are saying artificial intelligence may not be used by students under the age of 13, and, related to privacy and data issues. And for now, and I think that's going to evolve, but for right now, that might be a very, very appropriate policy to have in place. we need to rework it a little bit so we're looking beyond artificial intelligence, but to say certain technologies where take student information, student data, we really have to be careful, especially if the student is under age 13, and for all of our students and staff as well. But now, staying with artificial intelligence. So we're going to have some limitations on artificial intelligence and other technologies for our younger kids that don't apply to our staff. And in fact, so for looking at the policies for our staff, we want staff to be free, and we want to encourage them to experiment, to get in and try things. So at this point in time, there are some districts we know have very, very restrictive policies on the use of artificial intelligence. Guys, you may want to lighten up on those when it comes to staff, because none of us know where this is headed. So we want staff to have a little bit more flexibility. We want them to have the freedom. We want them to have the access to these tools so they can get in there and play with them, if you will. And for professional development, we want to schedule some time, just some basic orientation. Hey, here's some apps that are available. Here are some ways that we see teachers using artificial intelligence. And of course, you can come to NWOET. If you look at the link, you'll see our latest updated list of professional development workshops that we're recommending on artificial intelligence, but it's going to be a little bit broader for staff. And then finally, the third category. And again, kudos to ISTE and Richard Coletta, the leader of ISTE in particular, for helping develop this concept. The third category is, how are we going to be using these once students graduate? Once they leave our schools and go into the workplace, how is that technology going to be used? And it's probably going to be just an explosion in artificial intelligence in particular. We don't know yet. It's going to be very different. It's going to be different 6 months from now, let alone when our students graduate from 2-year, 4-year college extended education. But we do know they're going to be using it. And we've got to make sure that what we do in K-12, the experiences we're providing those young people in K-12, is going to be prepare them for that broadest unrestricted use that they're going to get in their real life. And spoiler alert, those kids already have access to that outside of our classroom. And we've got to take that as a reality check as well. So whether it's social media, artificial intelligence, whatever the tool might be, I encourage you to think about it in those ways. How are our policies going to apply to this type of technology use within the classroom? And there should be, in my opinion, differences based on the grade and maturity of the students. But how's it going to be used in the classroom? What broader uses are we going to allow and encourage our staff to take advantage of with this particular technology? And always with our eye on the future of how will this technology be used in the real world? And again, remember, the real world for our students is the minute that bell rings, they are in the real world. And whether technically they're allowed to or not, they have access to all this stuff. And so we need to blend this together in a wholesome developmental phase. We have recommendations for this in the workshops we give in our latest October newsletter. And so I really encourage you to take a look at that. And the thing that we want to do is make sure that we're giving our students the best advantage we can for a successful, happy, healthy life. So when you read that NWOET newsletter and you see those AI policies listed, well, make sure that you put that little asterisk, AI policies, yeah, but go beyond that. We're not just focusing on artificial intelligence in particular, but rather, how do we use technologies in the writing process, including artificial intelligence? And I think you'll really be amazed at how quickly this matures into a usable, practical set of acceptable use policies. Yeah, the massive document that everybody signs and doesn't read, but also, the list of 4 policies that the teacher has on the wall for their classroom. I think it's going to work. So I'm excited about this next phase in our policies on artificial intelligence and beyond.
I think you make some good points, Roger. And the thing that initially with new technology is to block it. And we saw this way back when students got cell phones and, social media came out. The thing to do is not to block it, but to educate them on that and give them the power of the knowledge of the tool and how to utilize that tool, and get ahead of it. There are, one of the sessions that Judy and I taught, they said, well, what if we just not talk about it? If we talk about it, then they'll know it's there and they're using it. I said, I'd rather have it in the forefront and know that the students know about it and that they can use it. And then give them the restrictions on how they can utilize it in the classroom and use it as a tool to push our learning, or our curriculum up a little bit more by using that tool in a way. I just talked to a math teacher last week about how he could use AI. Like he says, I already know that this exists and I just say they can't use it. I said, well, how did you use it in college? He goes, my professor. And then he told me, I said, that's a perfect way for you to use it in your class. Like your professor literally allowed you to use it to solve math problems when you were taking, doing a degree program. Why can't you do that same way? He goes, that is a good idea. It's like the first thing we think about is blocking and not allowing students to use it, but why not use it to enhance the learning?
Students, if you use whatever technology you used in helping you complete your assignment, you need to cite that. If you used artificial intelligence, if you used photo math, if whatever it might be used, you just come out forward and say, hey, teacher, here's my assignment, and here's the technology tools I used to help create this. I did not do this drawing on my own. I had the AI draw it, or whatever the case might be. And I think that will be a not just a big step, but almost a giant leap into helping prepare our students for honest, transparent, academically sound use of technology tools into the future. There we go. Yeah.
Okay. But you're talking about the classroom AI policy, and I thought those were really good for a classroom teacher to use, even if it isn't fully explained to that extent in your school's policy. The teacher that is giving an assignment could go over these things about putting what the prompt was. I don't think you want to include, I think you're exactly right. You can't include every technology because there's new ones we don't even know that exist tomorrow or next week. But that kind of explains that, the student would put what their prompt was and what exact tool they did use at that time, and how you even said Chat GPT version 4.5. It's just like doing a citation.
Like doing citation. And I tell you, here's the one I really, really like, that I think of all of those suggestions, which is the most valuable and the most important. Number 4, explain how the technology improved your work. Why did you pick that tool, students? Think about this, higher level thinking skills. Why did you use that tool? How did you think that would improve your submission? And if we're doing that, I think we're free to let the students use any technology that's out there in the classroom. Again, understanding and respecting data privacy and appropriate level of content. It's really a new generation of acceptable use policies that I find very exciting.
Well, I think if you deny students using certain technologies and they find out it's out there, they're going to find a way to use it. They're probably going to use it more than if you didn't even mention it because they didn't know it was there. Or they might be angry when they find out that somebody in another school is using this thing that really could help them, and you're denying them or not even mentioning it, hoping they won't know about it. But they probably know about more things than we think.
And also, if you block it, from the very first conference that I did with NWOET 20 years ago, there was a filter on their Wi-Fi, and one of our tech kids showed me how to get around it. and I was able to get in everything. And all you have to do is set your phone up, your computer up on a VPN. And I mean, it's simple. I was able to do it 20 years ago when I was first fresh into the technology world. So if they want to, they'll get it. If they want to use the thing. So it's best to get ahead of it and have the policies in line, or, there already should be classroom management posters in your rooms stating what is allowable and not allowable. And it just surprises me that a couple districts were still working on that. Better late than never, but still,
let's do a next vlog or an upcoming vlog exactly on that, Tonya. What policies should be posted in your classroom? Things like use of cameras, listening to music and so forth. I think that would be well worth revisiting. And and there are districts and classroom teachers that are still struggling with this.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. This is exciting.
For sure. For sure. Well, thanks for joining us. And like I said, all the links will be on our website, and you've already seen some of the resources that we've mentioned, but we'll make sure that you have access to those. You can always go to our website, NWOET.org, and have access to our scanners. Our monthly scanners are actually quarterly scanners kind of now. I guess it's been monthly here lately. Yeah.
Yep.
They've been monthly here lately. We've been pushing out more information. So so feel free to find that link also on the resource page. And we'll continue talking about technology integration on our next weekly episode. So thank you for joining us.